And then Marco, in the Italy, a country that has taken the most severe hits, I think, so far. How are you doing in the capital city of Italy?
Thank you, Jaap. Hello to everybody. I'm going well, and busy, worried, but healthy. And yes, I'm working from home today, and I'm based in Rome, Italy, and we are in full lockdown. What it means that after you close the schools, then you start closing the shops, and then after that you start shutting down everything else, the factories, and every non-essential business. So the offices are all closed, mandatory. And the only things that are open are the supermarket, water, electricity, and some positive things that came out from this is that translation was added into the essential services. It means that they recognized the work that we do for the food chain. And so basically translation services in Italy are one of the few things that can technically operate. So our team is all working from remote. We have no one in the office, but we are allowed to move in the city to go to the office in case we need. So I think my contribution today, I think I can, so Italy has been affected after China, and now unfortunately it's the biggest number of dead people. So we're about 10 days or 2 weeks before many others. So I can kind of see the future for the others, but just for the next 10 days. Okay, so that's the contribution I can give to this webinar.
Yeah, and that's not a good future then. Yeah, and sorry, I forgot to say, no, I think most people know Marco is the CEO of Translated and the makers of MateCat. So good, thanks Marco, we'll come back to you of course.
Translator network, for example, from a company. I was wondering if Marco could tell us a little bit more, since you mentioned the fact that in Italy you're in a sort of frontline situation, if I understand it right. How is the actual work or the demand or the relationship between demand and the environment working for you now, Marco?
First, I have to say, so all the employees are safe. I think you need to understand the situation before I mention what's happening. So all the employees are safe, but many have relatives and friends that are affected or hospitalized with the disease, okay? Some of the companies here locally lost 95% of their cash flows. And the average company in Europe has about 21 days of cash to survive.
Right.
So there is many companies around after 2 weeks of full lockdown. They're firing about 30% of the workforce. Fortunately, not many, but there are some that are doing this. And so there are many translators that are calling us saying that they need work, okay? Because they are not like a company. They don't get credit. They cannot pay their provider later. Nobody will get credit for buying food. And so some translators are not receiving enough work. Some other don't keep up with the volumes because they receive actually more work. So it really depends on the customer base that you have. Some customer bases maybe lost a lot of revenue, but they need to communicate. And think about travel industry. They're doing an impressive effort in communicating. And some other shut down their factories. So there is no volume coming from them. So personally, so I translated, so we're actually receiving the last month 150% of the volume that we normally receive. And so that was really the challenge that we had to manage. And so there was an incredible effort from the team. And if any one of the team is listening, I want to thank them for everything they're doing. And so we basically went to 24/7 in modality and working to serve the high demand. Now, the other problem connected to that is that there is many customers that do not have the cash to pay. And so you will see that the cashing of your payments may be delayed for some other customers. So it's that is the overall situation. And I think is in our case. So what we did, we tried to help. So we increased the salaries to the people that are working so hard. We basically provided to our professional translators free technology to as much as we could, and to some of the people that have been working overnight, because when you have a crisis, time zone unfortunately do not help. And so we had to ask many translators to work at night in 3 shifts. And so we basically doubled the pay for those translators. So we've been adding many measures and to support the people that are doing this effort. Unfortunately, I mean, some of the companies I think are reducing the salaries of firing people. And so when we started our plan, we basically realized quickly that was the trend. So we set 2 goals. So number 1, that we don't want anyone in the team to go in intensive care. And number 2, we don't want any job lost. And I think that taking just one of the 2 goals, it's relatively easy. But doing the 2 I think is the hard part. And for now, we're going pretty well. And I think I'm happy, and I mean the team has done an incredible job in doing that. So I'm positive for the future, but I want to share that when the lockdown persists over the weeks, things don't get too easy.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. Thank you very much. Any reactions to that? That's very interesting.
Yeah, maybe it's Marco, you're still in the middle of the crisis, but have you been thinking about the future a little bit? Do you have any views on your sort of lasting changes in our industry?
No, I didn't have a lot of time to think about, but Jaap, I'm an incredible optimist, and so I always think positive about the future. So what I'm seeing is that the crisis has released a great amount of ingenuity, and people are inventing new things. They need to do things in a more efficient way, more disintermediated way. Yeah. And since the market changed, they need to find new markets, and hopefully international markets. And because they can travel less, I think that a great translation service is a brilliant tool for helping these companies to grow. So I see the future to be positive.
Yeah. Always good, yeah.